Welcome to the podcast, fellow griever. I'm Melissa, your host, and I'm with you on this journey because my own incredible 21-year-old son, Alex, died by suicide on August 7th in 2016. My world was shattered, but slowly, bit by bit, I began the difficult journey of rebuilding a new life, just like you may be doing right now. So know that I see you, because I am you. Thank you so much for being here. It truly means more than I can say. And if you are new to the podcast, please consider listening to the introduction, Meet Me, episode number 1, which is now linked in the show notes starting in late season 6. Listen to know what to expect from the podcast, to learn more about me, and so that you will know all that I offer in my community for support, connection, and healing. If you are not a new listener and haven't listened to this Meet Me episode recently, it's updated and you may learn something new. Every week, we will continue to explore the questions that haunt us, seek the courage to uncover the healing tools within us, and offer the comfort of a community we all need so very much. Come along with me, because this is so very lonely, but we do not have to be alone. Together, let's choose to find meaning and even happiness amid the leftover pieces before us. Welcome to today's episode. Hello, fellow griever, and welcome to the podcast. Today is season 8, episode 12, and today I have a very, very special guest with me to talk about her grief in the early days. Today's guest is Jacquelyn Dickey, a wife, a mother, an accomplished horse trainer, and now also an author and suicide prevention advocate. Jacquelyn is navigating her early grief journey after the death of her son Austin on just April 4th of 2025. Austin was 30 years old. In her book, The Dash, and through her advocacy work, she honors Austin's creativity, especially his photographic art, while helping others find connection, meaning, and courage in the wake of loss. Jacquelyn also leads the Austin Dickey Creativity and Advocacy Fund, supporting young artists who use their gifts to raise mental health awareness. She and her thoroughbred Donner earned first place at the 2025 Thoroughbred Makeover, using that platform to share hope and resilience with audiences near and far. Today, we're going to have a candid conversation with Jacquelyn where we talk about all of these things and then some. All of the links that we talk about in the episode, including the YouTube link to her Thoroughbred Makeover and links to the book and her website and advocacy fund, are in the show notes. And while it's hard to pick special parts of this conversation, I do hope you'll stay with us clear till the end when Jacquelyn gives me the honor of reading a poem that she wrote called One Choice That Changed Everything. It's an incredible piece and a fitting way to end this incredible conversation. And with no further delay, let's go ahead and welcome Jacquelyn. Hi, and welcome to the podcast, Jacquelyn. It's nice to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
I am going to start the way that I start almost all of my episodes and ask you to share your story of loss about your son, Austin, with us.
So Austin was 30 years old, and he was a very good photographer. He did adventure photography across the United States, and he was very gifted and had made life sacrifices to do his photography. On April 3rd of 2025, he decided to take his life by suicide. It was a big shock to our family. We had no idea that he was suffering. In his journals that he had kept from 2017 until about 2 weeks before he died, there were entries that indicated he had had some ups and downs through his travels and through his life. And he just never voiced it to us.
I would love a couple of things, and I want you to take the lead as we dive in to talk about this, because one, I want to acknowledge that you are at a very, early, tender place, and I'm honored and cognizant of having this conversation in this space that you're in. But part of what brings you to talk about this is the advocacy work you're doing in your son's name, the awareness work. You went into survival mode really early. You went into action mode as a way to survive. And I'm going to let you talk about that a little bit more as you share a little bit more about your story and what that meant to you, like within weeks of losing Austin, being back at doing what you do, and how that became your motivation for the advocacy that you do, and where the inspiration came from to write the incredible book, The Dash, that you wrote. So I'm going to let you take this from here and continue the story from after you lost him, what it looked like then, because a lot of people will be listening going, April, wow, she's still really new in this grief. And yet she's written a book and she's doing advocacy work. And I want to know what that's looked like for you and how that's unfolding.
When we found out about Austin taking his life by suicide, we didn't know what he had left behind. On the seat of his car, he had left notes for Michael, his sister, Ariana, his girlfriend, and his dog. In reading those notes, it was very clear that he had suffered silently. I didn't want him to die without people recognizing that he was very special. There was also a disk drive on the seat of his car. In that disk drive, we found a note to the world talking about his art and how he had always hoped that people would stand in awe over his art and his photography. On that disk drive, he left photographs he had taken all over the United States. They had pictures of friends, his dog, his girlfriend, faraway places, and nights he spent under the stars. There was just all these photos that were a description of his life. And with that note that he left, I decided that the way I could honor him best would be to have a gallery showing, which I did, and also write a book about his work, my way of navigating his death. I decided that any selling of his art should benefit suicide awareness. That's when I started the Jacquelyn Dickey Advocacy Fund through Metro West. It goes to Active Minds, which will award a scholarship for creative advocacy to a high school or college student using their creative work to promote mental health advocacy.
That's a good destination for that. Have you had your first recipient of any of the awards yet?
They generally do their national conference somewhere between May and July. So it will be awarded at their national conference. And I will have the opportunity to give the award with my husband and Ariana, of course, if she chooses to come along. I'm very excited for the first recipient to receive the award and to continue building that fund so that it can go to perpetuity.
You had this body of work, and not only did you want the world to see it and honor your son, but your son's wish was that the world saw it, and you're letting that happen also. But I want to step back for a second, because everybody listening doesn't have the same situation. Some people were not surprised, or were surprised is really a misnomer, because even if people's children openly suffered and maybe had attempts, or their loved one had suicidality for a long time, knowing that they're at risk and actually losing them are still two very different things. But also there's the element that we share, which is that I didn't see any signs of this being where we were headed. In retrospect, Alex did not leave the notes that Austin did, or if he did, we don't have them. The silent suffering, no, now there was obviously more of that going on by things we have found in his stuff. Same things, silent, but it sounds like Austin, at least for a little while, had enough forethought to know where he was headed to write notes and to think about his art. And that's a lot to take in as a parent. It's a lot to take in their death and realize they were thinking about this as you were probably having conversations with them. Then for you to spring into action like you did is a lot to comprehend. For me, do you feel like this was a necessary part of your survival, or was this more about the legacy and knowing that you had to do this for him? Talk about what you do and how that translated into continuing as a horse trainer. You had a decision to make really early about a work decision with your horse training. Talk about that, because that's a big deal.
The functioning of life is just so mixed up and hard to handle. I had to decide whether I was going to just take a step back from the horses. I had 9 horses in training. I had people depending on me to take care of their horses. My clients were with me in a very beautiful way and were allowing me to take a step back. Being at the barn was very helpful to me. I had just purchased a horse to compete in the 2025 Thoroughbred Makeover, which was in Kentucky in October. I had to decide, was I going to sell this horse and let someone else develop him, or continue with him? And what was that going to look like going forward with me in a position where I might not be as effective as a trainer? I started going down to the pasture, bringing him in and working with him. I found that when I was with him, I was happier. I said, well, I could take him to the makeover and make him a vessel for suicide awareness. So I did. I competed in the freestyle division and developed a suicide awareness freestyle for Advocacy. It took off in a direction I never imagined. He was in first place after the prelims, and the announcer of the event connected with me in a very meaningful way. He had lost his father to suicide, and it touched him so much that he spoke at the makeover about his father's death and how much this had impacted him. It has also impacted the horse community in a very positive way. And there's been a couple of articles about Donner, my horse, and me as a competitor at the makeover. We did end up winning the freestyle division at makeover and won $5,800, which is now donated to Austin's Advocacy Fund. I hope to continue with Donner as a suicide advocate, taking him to equine events where they have the ability to do these freestyles and have a suicide awareness effect. I was planning to go to Florida in 2 weeks to compete him again and do the freestyle again, but there is a equine virus going around right now that I think it's probably going to be canceled, or I will not be able to go. I'm taking every opportunity to let him do his thing for suicide awareness.
Yeah, and you sent me the incredible video of that performance, and with your permission, I want to put a link to that in the show notes so people can watch that. Is that something I will be able to do so people
Absolutely.
can? Yeah, because it's really powerful to see that, and it's moving. I would say, how did you get through that? With tears is how you got through that. With tears and power and Austin with you and the strength of this amazing, incredible animal. To even think about it, I have goosebumps, and it's bringing me to tears to think about the power of animals. And to know that you had that in your life is incredible. I'm sure you don't, that gift doesn't pass you by at all, because animals are able to hold our pain in ways that other humans can't. And I'm guessing from what you told me before, that was part of it. When you got back in the arena with Donner, it probably was almost an immediate, yes, I have to do this, because as much as you gave to him, he was giving you back the comfort.
Exactly. And I knew immediately that he would be able to spread the word in a way that was different and unique, and it would be recognized.
The compassion and love of animals is unbelievable, but also the understanding. He had to feel what you were feeling on some level. I just believe that. Certain animals are more that way than others. Horses are such incredible, majestic animals, and there had to be a recognition in his soul that you were grieving.
I'm 100% sure that he knew he had a mission. That horse did not put a foot wrong the entire weekend. He was spot on in both competition, both the prelims and the finals. In training, you have 9 months to train them. And he did not get 9 months of training. He got more like 4.5 months. And he just knew. He did what he needed to do.
Incredible. And to realize that it came out that way. And now he knows, right? He's got this mission. You guys are connected on this level. I also want you to talk a little bit, and I know we're kind of sidestepping. We're still talking about such a small time frame that we're also not sidestepping. We're still all within this first 7 months, 8 months of your loss. So this is all still very fresh, but talk about how your family is navigating this. It's you, your husband, and your daughter who's in college. He left behind a girlfriend and a beloved dog. Here we are at the time of this recording. We'll be right at Christmas time. You're navigating the holiday season for the first time. Talk about what this is looking like for your family in conjunction with everything you all are doing, but also aside from it. Are there challenges to the fact that you've taken on so much, or is it your lifeline?
I do feel that doing the things that I'm doing is my lifeline. My husband is different from me. He's tackling things differently, but we come together in a good way to help each other through rough spots. A good example is we were selling our house and moving. It was difficult to stay in the house. So we're helping each other out. We're moving. And that's okay. Ariana, she's done very well. She's at school and continuing to do all the things that she is hoping to do. She's at Ohio State and is being very successful in completing her studies. We support her as much as we can. She's far away, but we talk frequently on the phone, and I encourage her to have the emotion she has about Austin and seek counseling. Fortunately, she's part of a sports team that has a very good counseling aspect to it. She's been able to utilize all the counseling.
She's openly grieving versus some siblings that don't for a while. She is taking advantage of talking to people and processing her grief.
She is. She and I frequently talk about Austin and his part in her life. She's adopted from China. She's 10 years younger than him, but she was very much a part of his life. He encouraged us to adopt her because he wanted a sibling.
And so despite their 10-year gap, they had a special connection. And as a sibling, the statistic is that most of us make it to the end of our life. 85% of us at the end of our life will still have our siblings with us, because at some point, one sibling's got to precede the other. Our siblings are the ones that are there from the beginning, in her case, the beginning of her time as your family, and to the end, because we know our parents are going to go, we know we're going to lose other people, but we expect to walk through life with our siblings. And so I get teary because I have a special place in my heart for the fact that as parents, this is the unimaginable, and we figure out how to stand up and keep going. Oftentimes our kids get pushed to the side because everybody cares about how's your mom, how's your parents doing. They become that sounding board. The fact that she's leaning into the process of grieving and you guys are communicative is special and speaks a lot to her, but also to your family that you're able to navigate it that way. I love that you and Michael are being respectful of your different journeys because some people don't do that as well, Jacquelyn. So that has to feel like a gift inside of the situation.
It truly is. A good example of that is he's not been able to read the book yet. And that's okay. He'll read it when he's ready. He has also not read the journals.
Has he read the letter to him that Austin wrote to him? Okay.
Yeah, and he's read the letter to everyone because the letters are in the book. So everybody has seen them, but he saw them before they went to the people that they were intended for.
We all do this in our own way. We all do it uniquely. I know a mom whose daughter has been gone for 4 years and she left a note. Everybody else in the family has read it, and by choice, she hasn't. And she doesn't know if she ever will. The only thing I ever had to say to her was, once you read it, you can't unread it. So be sure that you want to read it, right? Because there isn't anything that says you have to. We all have to do these in our own way. The fact that you're so respectful of that with each other will only serve you as you go on this journey. Talk to me a little bit about the book and the style that you did and how that came. And you told me there's a little surprise. There's going to be another one. I want you to talk about some of the other things you do to keep yourself moving forward and honoring Austin's life. You've talked about runs and walks and things like that. Talk about how you're surviving this and all the things, because it's inspirational. I would love to hear you talk about some of the other things you have planned.
For me, it's very important to keep going. I've always been that way, just trying to keep his legacy alive, whether it's writing a new book, doing a walk that brings awareness to suicide, or working with horses that can be a representative for suicide awareness. I also have a social media thing I'm working on launching, which is called The Empty Chair. People will send in an empty chair and a description of their loved one that committed suicide. The chair will be a representation of that person, but I'm hoping that can move to different galleries and be a representation of suicide awareness. Anytime I come up with an idea that might help someone or bring more awareness, I try to jump on that boat and see where it goes. There's so much we can do to make people more aware. And I do think this is an epidemic in our society right now, and we need to be aware.
Yeah, it's definitely a crisis. I throw around the word epidemic sometimes because I do think it is one. It's definitely a crisis in the world, but definitely in our society. I'm intrigued, especially because at this time of year, lots of grievers in general, not just suicide loss or not just child loss, will lean into the concept of the empty chair. Many people set a place. Many people leave an empty chair. My husband and I got married a year after Alex was gone. We just had a very small backyard wedding with just family, 12 people with us, and left a chair for Alex. His dog intuitively just laid under that chair the entire time. She's a people dog. She'd be with Parker or somebody else, and she laid under Alex's chair and didn't move the entire time. And how did she know? Animals just know. Because I had his urn on a table next to us under his chair, the one he would have been sitting in next to Parker if he had been there. That empty chair has a lot of significance, especially at the holidays. So leaning into that a little bit, it sounds like you haven't launched it yet, but I want to make sure I understand. Does that mean you're going to ask them to send in a photo of an empty chair?
No, it will be a photo of an empty chair of their choice and some information about their loved one, the name, their story, and what they gave to the world. And I will do a write-up about each chair. It won't be a photo of the person. It will be a photo of a chair. But it will give an opportunity for someone to tell their loved one's story and bring awareness.
Because I think you're going to have a lot of people listening, because I registered that and thought, I'm going to participate. So I know you've got people listening thinking, I'm going to participate. We'll make sure we put information in the show notes.
Actually, I have the post ready and it's going to launch tomorrow.
By the time this episode is out, it will be live in the show notes. I imagine you're going to have a lot of success with that. That's one of those dualities in our world now, because that's exciting. That's a hard word. Words are hard after this loss, Jacquelyn. You'll get a lot of response from people in your world and listeners here. And I wish there was nobody that had to respond to it.
Me too.
It's that horrible duality that we live. I'm sure, knowing what little I know of you right now, that this was partially born from the idea of the power of the photograph.
Yeah.
Because I can see that right away, in the idea that it's going to cause me to think of what chair would I see my son in, or what chair can tell the story. What a powerful way. How did this idea come to you?
I just thought of it. It happened this week. I was thinking about the holidays and the empty chair, and I said, I'm going to bring a voice to that empty chair. I wrote up the post that I'm going to post tomorrow, and I'm going to put my first chair up there, and it's going to be an Austin chair. So
I'm going to get you an Alex chair fairly soon, because I'm so inspired by this. The things that we do in memory and legacy matter. These are the kind of things that will save lives. These are the kind of things that will make people stop. You and I have talked about this. That's why you're here, having hard conversations, being willing to go out into the world, carry flags and show your horse and do all the things, is how we bring awareness, how we bring the stigma down, and ultimately help. I go further than some people do. I go to the place of saying it's how we empower people to speak up for their own mental health, because we still live in a stigmatized society. It's hard, especially for young men, to say it's bad. It's bad enough. I'm not sure I want to live anymore. And here they're so close to their parents. They have a full life and they don't feel like they can tell somebody. We need to change that. We can't change it if we don't break down the walls and the stigma and let people understand that there has to be other options besides not being here anymore.
exactly. In Austin's case, I felt that he was just so kind in his thought process. He didn't want to hurt anybody. He left the notes. He packed boxes and left them in his storage unit. And in his notes said they were there, ready to be delivered to friends and family. He spent time thinking about it. But in that time, he didn't approach us and say, this is a problem that I have. I called him and I said, Austin, where are you going? And he said, well, I'm going to the gym. And I said, I just passed you. And no, you didn't. I'm on my way to the gym. He convinced me that the car that I saw, which was a Subaru, wasn't his. In our conversation, he said, Mom, I love you so much. Those were probably the last words that he spoke. He drove around the corner and that's when he did it. And I thought to myself, how can you love me so much and go drive around the corner and do that to yourself and leave all of these things? You can prepare in such a way that you think it won't hurt anyone, and yet you don't think about what happened after. It's not the leading up and making the boxes and doing all the notes and all of that. After all of that is done, you're left with years of not having that person and not having the celebration, the wedding, the birthday, all of it.
The babies, all the things.
And then, like in Michael's and my case, you think about family heritage. He was the last Dickey in the Dickey line. And it's done.
To hear you talk about the thoughtful process that your son put into the decision, speaks so heavily to me about how a suicidal mind isn't the same as our mind when it isn't in the suicidal space. Whenever they cross into that place, it's like something short-wired or there's a break in their brain or something happens when they cross over from just suicidal ideation, which lots of people have every day and still go on living, to when they go into being suicidal and truly being at risk, the planning, the things like that, because that's when you've moved into that. And some people, from the moment of that to end is very quick, and others, it could be weeks or months. And to realize that he had taken at least some time, because you say 2 weeks from his journal entries, so you may have pieced together in your mind how many weeks he was starting to do those notes and planning. But it tells you that because your bright, incredible son in his normal right mind would have known that you can put all this in place and it's still not going to make it. We're still not going to be fine without you. You're transferring your pain, but they don't see it. They see it as it's because I've heard suicide attempt survivors talk about this a lot. They honestly believe the choice is logical. They believe that the choice is really going to end not only their pain, but it's going to keep them from being a burden to their families. There's a thought process that when we're in our right minds, we can't comprehend. We think, how in the world, like you said, how could you love me like you say you do and drive around the corner? It's because there's something going on.
Yeah.
We can't understand, but that's what we want to be able to do, is to get people, hopefully before crisis, to start to recognize the same as they would. I've used this type of an analogy a lot, but when somebody has an injury, they think, okay, I can't get this fixed. It's not getting better. Think about a sore shoulder. And when you finally go, hey, I need to go to the doctor, this isn't getting better. We need that same recognition in our mental health. It's one thing to have a few bad days or to know something bad went on and we're having some angst over it. But when we have persistent thoughts that are saying we don't want to live, we should have something ahead of that we've put in place in our society that kids learn from young, that we can say something's not right. I need to see a doctor. We need to do something, because no matter what I do right now, I can't shake the fact that I want to die. We don't feel like we can do that. We're only going to get there by talking about it and bringing awareness to it. Are we ever going to eradicate suicide? No, we're not going to eradicate homicide. We're not going to eradicate disease. But it is an epidemic. It is a crisis. The trajectory needs to go the other direction, because there shouldn't be as much of this happening, especially with our young people. All the suicide prevention models, Jacquelyn, were originally put in place for what used to be the most prominent demographic of suicide in our culture, which was middle-aged men. And so the whole model of watching for certain things no longer applies. We're in such a different world nowadays. We have all this technology. We have more anxiety than we've ever had. We have a faster paced world. We've got to come up with ways to arm people from a empowerment standpoint that allows them to lean into their mental health states and mental health care. And I fear we have a ways to go. But the yous and the me's of the world are going to continue standing on our soapboxes or riding on our horses to continue to do that. Does it feel like that's going to be part of your path going forward?
I'm 100% sure that it will be part of my path. And I think the path can only get bigger so that there's more awareness and people think about what's going on around them and are aware of people and notice if someone is having a hard time. And I don't think that I didn't notice that Austin wasn't having a hard time. But now that he's gone, I wonder, was there any sign that I missed?
Exactly. So I do want to briefly address something that came to my mind a second ago as I'm talking about this being my path and advocacy and your path. When I have conversations like this with people that are also choosing a purpose that has a platform of sorts. I always want to say a couple of things, but I always want to tell people that all of us do this journey very differently, and we have to honor what feels right for us, and what's right for one person is not for the other. And I never want anybody to feel like they aren't doing the right thing because they haven't chosen a platform or something like that. They have a little space in their home where they're honoring their child, or they've done a memorial garden, or they may write poetry silently and letters to their children. There's all sorts of things we do to get through this, honor them, memorialize them, and that there isn't a right or wrong. People are called to different things in their life at different times. And this is your way and this is my way, but it's not the only way. The flip side of that coin is I can speak to my side, but I would rather hear you speak to yours, to ask you to be as honest as you can be. I'll start with my side about the fact that I think there's a misconception. I've had people say to me, apparently I'm not as strong or resilient as you are because I don't know if I could speak about this or write books. I don't think that's the case. It's just, this happens to be where my drive and pull is, but people don't see the other side, which is I still have all the same struggles they do. You alluded to it earlier, which made me think of it. I still get mad and think, what the fuck, kid? Like, seriously, this is where we are. Why did this happen? Why am I doing this? I even sometimes speak out loud to him when I'm upset or angry. I still do all of the things, and some of it's not pretty. And at 9 years in, it looks different than it did then where you are. But I don't want somebody to have it. There's nothing wrong if you are completely holding it together, but the perception here is like, look at this lady these many months in, and she's got it all together. And you're just surviving the best way you know how. And you're still having all the emotions too. And all of the days that probably feel like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I have days that I still go, how could I possibly do this and help anybody anymore? If I have a bad day, I'll feel like a puddle and think, how can I be any good to anybody? Look at me. I can't figure it out. So how can they figure it out? Talk to me about the fact that it's still grief and that you're still deeply grieving your son alongside trying to make some purpose from this.
I cry every day, every single day. There's something that I'll see or hear or do that reminds me of him. And I will cry. Oftentimes, my husband and I will be together and reflect with him on what made me upset. And I'm very fortunate that I have a husband that is very understanding of my emotions, and he's not as emotional as me. I think that's his military background. He was a captain in the Coast Guard, and he just doesn't show emotion the same way, but he allows me to. I turn a lot of my emotion into writing, and that's where the book came into play. I needed an outlet to put my feelings down and have them seen by me or everyone. And I chose to let everyone see them because I wanted to be raw about how I felt.
Very well put. I have a couple of questions to ask you. I want you to talk about the book and the style of the book so everybody can look forward to putting this beautiful book in their hands. Talk about the style of it and what guided that. So talk about the style. And the name of the book, again, is The Dash. Some people will know immediately what that means, but others will not. So talk about the title, how it's laid out, and what people can expect. It's a beautiful hardcover book.
The dash is the timeline from birth until death. When you look at a tombstone, you see that Austin's dash would be February 5th, 1995, dash April 3rd, 2025. That would be his dash, the timeline of his life. And within that dash, there are a lot of things that happen. Austin chose to be a photographer in the biggest part of his dash. The book is about that dash and his photography and my grief surrounding his dash. The format is vignettes accompanied by photographs. And they range from journal entries, the letters that he wrote, talking about my grief, talking about family. You name it, I put it down on paper, his passing, and my thought process surrounding it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I can't speak to it enough as far as the power. There isn't any way to say how the words or the photographs, which one's more powerful. And I think the photographs might win. Just because a photo is worth 1,000 words from one mom to another, I'm sure you're thinking, yeah, my kids' photos can shine. But it's such a beautiful marrying of impactful words with these incredible photographs that he took, as much, if not more, from the photographs. And then to have these beautiful, sad, poignant, because there's all the mixing of beautiful words and sad words and real words, because some of them are his journal entries. And it's just such a powerful body of work.
I really wanted people to get everything from it. I didn't want it to be just a sad thing. I wanted it to bring hope and awareness and to bring all the elements that we need for suicide awareness.
I would struggle to say there's very many indoor pictures because he was an outdoor photographer. He was an active young man. There were so many aerial photos. I'm in awe of how he managed to get some of these photos. I'm assuming they're all real. There's one where there's a young man in a cap and gown on a wire.
Yes. Austin was an avid highliner. That's called highlining. A lot of his photos revolved around that sport, climbing. Adventure photography ranges on all of these outdoor sports. I think he brought great impact to those photographs of highlining and climbing. And the aerial photography was done with his drone. So there's several of those in the book. And yeah, I don't want to spill too much of the beans, but what was your favorite photograph?
Oh, gosh. I mean, how do you pick? It's really hard. It's silly. And I don't know if that's the girlfriend or not, but there's one with a green chair in the water.
That's Rachel, the girlfriend.
It's hard to pick. The outdoor photography is beautiful, and some of the photography with the people in it and the highlining, some of it him, some of it others. But there was something about her face and the setting and everything, because he was a beautiful photographer. It looked like a green velvet chair. And I really like that one for some reason, which is interesting because you're now doing the empty chair. That's not an empty chair. There's something about the chair in that, and about furniture in an outdoor setting. It's interesting to see that. So,
yeah, that really captured her too. She's such a lovely girl. They were together for 5 years. She didn't know. She was closer to him than probably me. Their daily interaction. He had come to me last November. It was right about this time. It was Thanksgiving time. And he asked me for a ring that I had promised him when he was younger that was actually my grandmother's ring. And he had always been fascinated with it. They had a black Hills gold element, and the ring, the diamond was set sort of high, so it was very difficult to wear around horses. But every time he saw me wear it, he was fascinated by it from the time he was probably 13 on. And I said to him one day, when you are ready to get married, come to me. I'll give you the ring and it will be yours. He came to me and asked me for the ring, and I gladly gave it to him. I think his intention was to ask Rachel, but the ring was found under his mattress after he died. I did give Rachel the ring because I know he intended her to have it. She's a very lovely girl who had a very difficult time with his passing.
She's a lovely girl on the outside. I can see a lot of her spirit in her eyes. Maybe that's part of why that photo, it's not just a chair, it's all of it. It's such a beautiful image. What's your favorite image in the book? Do you have a couple of favorites? Do you have one that stands out for you?
My favorite photo of all his photos is one of Slab City. The truck is,
Yeah, that's a good one too. I told you it's hard to pick. Talk to me as we wrap up and bring this all to, we could just, here's the thing. I mean, I could ask you endlessly about Austin. You and I could talk forever, but in the idea of wrapping this up a little bit, talk about your plans going forward. I don't expect you to go into, long plans because you said you do see yourself on this path doing advocacy. What does the near future look like? I don't think I'm spilling the beans because you shared it with me that you are planning a follow-up to the book, which I'm assuming will have more photography. But what's your plans for that book?
So Austin left a tower with over 6,000 photos filed by the national parks he traveled. I really want to let the world see those as well. The title of the next book is called Within the Dash, and it is about his travels in national parks. There'll be a few journal entries from when he was at the park. I'm going to continue to write about him. At the end of that book will be a couple of chapters probably called Beyond the Dash, and that is going to include some emails and text messages and photos that I've received from his friends who have spread his ashes. I gave his ashes to his friends. We've spread his ashes, and it will be dedicated to those friends and their travels with his ashes.
Such a nice legacy tribute to his lifestyle and how he's touched them and how he's continuing to live through them and touch their lives. We know this altered our lives forever, but it altered many others' lives forever that loved him and has impacted and changed paths for them as well. Doing something like this honors not only him, but many people walking this journey without their loved ones. It's a really powerful thing to do. I want to make sure before we wrap up that everybody knows a couple of things. One, I will put all the links in my show notes. Go there to find out how to get to the social media, the empty chair, how to find the book, how to find all the places Jacquelyn has given me so that you can find all of these things and experiencing them for yourself. But I want to know if there's anything that you haven't had a chance to share or talk about that you want to, Jacquelyn.
I just want to share that this is an important thing that you're doing, and I applaud you for doing it for all of us who have lost someone. And having a podcast like this is an incredible undertaking, and I admire you for doing it.
I likewise want the world to know how much I admire, and as much as I wish we had met for any reason, it's my honor to walk alongside you in this journey. We collect each other along the way as fellow grievers, and I don't believe in accidental path crossings. This probably won't be the last time we speak. I believe we get connected for a reason after these losses, and I'm going to be following along with what you do. Who knows, maybe you'll be back in a year or two to talk about where this has gone since then. I would love to get an update at some point. Maybe after your next book is out. You said you have a walk in Africa coming up, different things that you've got going on. I would love to talk more about how this has continued, not just your advocacy work, but your grief journey, how this has continued to unfold and walk alongside of your journey in grief as a mom. But I want to ask you something that I didn't ask you ahead of time. And so if you say no, I will edit this out. But I would love to read the one choice that changed everything, or ask you to read it if you would prefer.
I would love you to read it.
Okay. I'm assuming you wrote this?
I did.
I was guessing that it was written by you and not your husband. So I want to end by reading this poem that she put in the book, but I want to make sure that I let you know how honored I am that you took this time. I'm honored to have gotten to know Austin a little bit, to get to know him even more through the photos, and look forward to any opportunity to do the same in the future, because that's how they live on. Say his name often, and continue talking about him and making a difference, Jacquelyn.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to talking with you again.
Yeah, likewise. So I'm going to read the one choice that changed everything. It was just one moment, one breath, one choice, one shot, and everything changed. The world kept spinning, but mine stopped. A single sound that echoed louder than thunder, tearing through every version of what could have been. That choice didn't just take you. It shattered birthdays, stole holidays, emptied chairs at the future tables we never got to sit at. It rewrote memories in silence. People talk about suicide like it's an ending, but it's not just an end. It's a blast radius. The grief doesn't stay tidy or contained. It seeps into places you never thought it would. The grocery store, a song on the radio, a pair of shoes you'll never wear again. The pain is relentless. The questions are louder than answers. Why didn't you call? Why didn't I know? Why couldn't love have been enough? And yet underneath the grief, there is still love. Still the echo of your laugh. Still the weight of your absence. I carry you now, not the way I wanted to, but in stories, in tears, in the quiet understanding that sometimes the brightest light burns too hot to stay. One choice changed everything, but not the fact that you were loved, not the truth that you mattered, and not the hope that maybe one day speaking your name will hurt a little less than it does today. Thank you. It was my honor. So thank you for joining me today, grievers. If today's episode resonated with you, please consider subscribing to get weekly updates when I drop new episodes. And please take a moment to rate and review the podcast with 5 stars, especially on Apple Podcasts. Your support helps so much because it's how others are able to find the podcast and this community. Remember, though it may feel impossible now, hope and healing are within reach. I invite you to connect further by visiting my website, theleftoverpieces.com, where you'll find support, legacy options, retreats, resources, online Zoom groups, and so much more. Together, we can navigate this journey of healing. We can put our hearts, our leftover pieces, back together. And as they say here in Puerto Rico, poco a poco, juntas podemos. Little by little, together we can. Take care and talk soon.